Broadcasting live from the Ketria Triome on the plain of Ikoria, this is Tap Tap Concede. Welcome everybody to Tap Tap Concede. My name is Graham. Joining me this week we have Nelson.
Hi.
And Ben.
Yo, glad to be back.
Yeah, and a special guest whom I will introduce shortly. But first, I want to remind you that this show is brought to you by Card Kingdom. Do check out cardkingdom.com/LRR. We know that they're not actively shipping, but they may be soon. Who knows? They're great. We wish them a speedy recovery from all of this, and thanks to them for continuing to support us through all of this. We really, really appreciate it. And the same goes for you at home, because this show is also brought to you by you and your kind support of our Patreon at patreon.com/loading-ready-run.
I pointed at my screen as though like people were going to
So
be able
did
to
I.
see that. Did you?
I can't
It's
help
just muscle
myself.
memory. Yeah.
You. So it's myself, Nelson, and Ben, and special guest and friend of the show, Shivam Bhatt from Casual Magic with Shivam. That's his very own podcast, and a member of the Commander Rules Advisory Group. Tell me I got that correctly.
Well, it's just a Commander Advisory Group, but I totally want to be a part of the Crag now.
Craig sounds... Yeah, I like Craig over Keg.
Like, that sounds way cooler.
Joining us from the Crag.
That'll be the next thing that you bring up at the meeting. It's like, all right, I know there's all these cards.
I'm putting that into the Discord right now.
Yeah.
The only reason that I knew that you missed announced Shivam just now is that I listened to at least the beginning. I couldn't say after the whole thing, but beginning of Shivam and Olivia's shift on CFB coverage the other night, and I'm like, oh, I heard them say it. They don't call it the CAG; they say the CAG, and it stuck in my brain. So I'm like, what did you just say, Graham? No, there's no word that starts with R.
Oh, darn! All right, joining us from the CAG, but hopefully soon to be the Crag.
The CAG almost sounds like this like offshore like prison in a way. Like he got locked up in the CAG.
If you're in some of our meetings, it kind of feels like it.
Welcome to the CAG.
So Shivam's here to talk a little bit about recent changes to Commander. Now, before we get into that, I want to give you, Shivam, an opportunity to make it really clear what the CAG is, what you do, and how much actual, the degree to which people should actually be holding you personally responsible for any of this.
Well, as it happens, Graham, I am the sole and complete arbiter of all things that happen in Magic the Gathering. Oh. And everything that happens is my responsibility. No, actually, so the Commander Advisory Group is basically a group of 6 of us, formerly 7 of us, who sit, who are members of the community or judge community or what have you. And when there's a thing that's happening in Commander, every quarter we get together with the Rules Committee and we offer our suggestions, feedback, the collected responses of the community, and our thoughts on any problematic cards, ideas, or rules concepts to the Rules Committee, who then, the 4 of them, go off to a separate room, do their voting in secret, and then we find out a couple of days before the entire world what has come of our suggestions. Sometimes that means good things. Sometimes that means, are you kidding me? Did you even listen to what we were saying? But ultimately, what it means is that I am not a voting member of the Rules Committee. I don't decide anything. I don't ban anything personally, no matter how much hyperbole I put on Twitter, on the Twitters. But what it is, though, is that I am a core member of being able to help these people understand what's going on and what the implications and ideas would result from changes that they want to make or don't want to make.
All right. And even if you didn't necessarily have a direct impact in a given decision, you can at least...
I can speak very confidently towards what happens.
Yeah, you can speak to the reasoning that went into it from the Rules Committee.
Yeah,
probably.
I mean, in essence, I don't make the vote, but we are such a fundamental part of all the discussion and our meetings go 3 hours or something long, and they're in depth, and we write lengthy essays in Discord about all of these things and thoughts and ideas. And I mean, we spend a lot of time thinking and talking about Commander through the year. So any decision that's happened since the CAG has been made has been taken with the CAG's deep what's the word I'm looking for? Advice and just, the work that we've put in. They have taken our suggestions to heart. So we've had like a strong hand in basically everything they've done.
Cool.
Okay, you know what I heard though? I just heard I am the Commander
Solid crew
Rules
arbiter.
Committee's. It's like I'm the Commander Rules Committee's meat shield, because like the 4 people who go in and do the voting don't, like, if they have you, then they don't have to be as active on Twitter and as available
yes,
to angry players, right? And so you're like kind of soaking up a lot of that.
That's a really good point, because it's like I will admit that I am more familiar with people that with the folks in the keg that are like at like your level of what you're doing, Shivam,
sure,
right? Like the people, because I would say in terms of social media presence and whatnot, that's I mean kind of where I get a lot of my news from,
sure.
Right? So I see these sorts of things,
and that's actually the plan. That's the idea here. Basically, the way it works is like, there's Wizards of the Coast. Then there's one step removed from Wizards of the Coast, the Rules Committee. Then there's one step removed from the Rules Committee, the Commander Advisory Group. And the reason they chose us specifically, and the reason that they created this group, is because there was a perception that, the Rules Committee lives in an ivory tower somewhere, they gain life, nobody sees them. And then... yeah, that's a joke for all of you from 94.
I loved it.
And then there's people like me, Josh Lee Kwai, Olivia, people who have platforms, who talk, who can act as liaisons between the community and the Rules Committee, so that the Rules Committee can understand what the actual people want to, because we have huge reaches, right? Like, I'm on one of the biggest shows in Magic right now talking to you 3, right? The things I learned from your feedback and from people who come to me on Twitter and stuff, I can take back to them and help them actually make Commander reflect the people who play Commander better, right? So, I mean, that's kind of like directly related to one of the changes that we made this time, which is banning Flash, and we can talk about that later on when we actually get to it. But that wouldn't have happened if not for the fact that the CAG was here to raise this issue. I think having the CAG around is a very valuable tool, because the Rules Committee is never, all 4 of them combined, ever going to get the reach of one Josh Lee Kwai, right? Like, one Command Zone video can hit thousands and thousands and thousands of players. Right. One update on our Commander website is not going to get anywhere close to that.
It's funny because, like Ben mentioned, you and Olivia and Josh, and, not only are these people that I know from within the Magic community, but also friends of ours, people who've all been at pre-releases.
I found out about the CAG at the pre-release, right?
Right. But I can only name 2 members of the actual Rules Committee, and only one of them because he was like a friend of some of ours before we actually knew that he was on the Rules Committee. We were playing Commander with Gavin at like GP Calgary or something, and he like knew like a friend of a friend, and we were hanging out, and he came over to Jared's place one time when he was visiting Victoria, and then literally like 2 years later I was like, wait, he's on the what?
It's hilarious. He lives like 15 minutes away from me now.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, we hang out. Huh. It's great. He offers his regards. He loves you guys. But that's Gavin Duggan, who is actually the guy who created the Rules Committee, ironically enough. Like, he was the one who proposed it and had Sheldon join. And so I guess there's Sheldon Menery, right? He's the face of Commander. He's the guy who effectively created it, brought it down from Alaska, everybody. Gavin Duggan, who runs the website and was former high-level judge and judge liaison with the people, so he did a lot of rules work. Scott Larrabee, who we all know is the head of organized play and tournaments at Wizards of the Coast. So whenever people are like, man, Wizards of the Coast should run the Commander, I'm like, well, Scott is Wizards of the Coast and runs Commander, so... and then there's Toby Elliott, who is he's basically a judge emeritus who used to and still does write like a lot of the updated rulings every set, and also basically created Tournament Magic, the rules for modern tournament Magic play. So these are guys who are like very long time, well known in like hyper judge communities, but not well known amongst like Commander players. Like if I took Gavin out randomly, like, okay, you remember at GP Vegas when Josh and Jimmy had the big Commander Fest a number of years back?
Yes,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was like the first major mega Commander like get together. Gavin was there, and he stood up and he thanked everybody for coming and everything. And everybody was like, "Who is this random tall Canadian dude? We don't." And it was like, oh, he's one of the guys who created Commander? Him? Really? You know, like, we had no idea. But everybody knows who Josh Lee Kwai is. Everybody knows who Olivia Gobert-Hicks is, right? A lot of people know who Stiborski is. Not as many people know, Charlotte and stuff, but she's really, really well known in the judge community. I mean, it just, we have reach, and that just makes it better for everybody.
Well, it certainly seems like just like having even more so than just like the reach of like the, the various fandoms and all that kind of jazz, but having people within various walks of life within the Magic community, like whether it be like a content creator or somebody literally working at WotC or somebody deep in the judge community and stuff, right? Like it's kind of ticking all these boxes that sort of need to happen, where, because it's just like if it was nothing but content creators and whatnot, that would seriously skew, I think, like a lot of the decisions. So it's really cool to hear that, that it's like, it might be funny to meme that, certain cards should or shouldn't be on a ban list or whatever. and maybe that would be more prevalent if it was just, Magic YouTubers or whatever, right? But because it's like, you have like grounded judges and people actually working at the company and stuff, you can expand beyond that. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, effectively, so people are like, a lot of people are like, man, you need more competitive players on the on the CAG and rules committee. And I'm like, well, aside from the fact that 4 tournament judges are pretty competitive, like we have Rachel Agnes, who is WotC's current like community manager / Twitter person. She is also one of the spikiest people we know. Before she joined CAG, she was like a hardcore vintage and legacy player, and her commander decks are some of the strongest and most brutal decks I've ever seen in my life. Like she's got that corner of the world nailed down. And meanwhile, I'm here, the King Dirtletron, right? Like, I'm the Lord High Master of Scrub casual decks, and we've got everything in between. And I think we cover this whole broad spectrum of all the different ways you can approach Commander, from like super goofy, just tribal decks to, I want to win right now decks. And I think by giving the rules committee this kind of broad spectrum to pull from, they get a bunch of different perspectives. Like, oh man, is Iona really that bad? It's like, well, casual players don't like having their one time to play Commander a month get locked out entirely by a card that says you don't get to play. So, I mean, it's important for us to be able to represent the like 90% of players who are not invested Magic players.
How often would you say that I imagine I don't know what like the power weighting, I guess, would be in that sort of scenario, but like, how do you weigh like the casual player's experience versus like the competitive player's experience?
Ooh, that is like the heart of the issue, right? Like, the way this works is, and it's not a science, and I want to preface this by saying this is my impression of it, and like the rules committee may have a very different impression behind the screen doors, but here's the way it works, right? Magic the Gathering is like played by millions and millions of people around the world. And of that, the most popular format there is Commander, right? Now, according to Wizards of the Coast themselves, something like 10 out of every 11 players of Magic the Gathering are invisible to WotC. These are the kitchen table players. These are the folks who go play Commander once a month, play 1-2 hour block. They're like parents or people who play at their high schools and don't use DCI numbers, whatever. And these are all hardcore casual players. Like, then there's like the invested people who are on Twitter and stuff. Then there's the even more hyper core people who are like super competitive and go to Reddit and go to podcasts. People like us who are like at the upper echelon of this. And one of the problems is, like, when you're talking to the community, they're like, oh man, you're totally ignoring like, CEDH or like this specific sub community. We've got 40,000 members on our Reddit and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, you have 40,000 members. There are 4 million Commander players. Right? like
yeah, it's hard. You have to look at the broader picture.
Yeah. So the way, when we're talking about, like, first off, Commander never wants to ban a card. Even though lately it feels like we've been banning one every month or something, we'd never want to, because we want people to crack open a pack, take their cards home and be like, okay, I can play this at least in my Commander deck. Oh man, I'm going to build this amazing deck. So when we had to ban the legendary Otter, it was like tearing our own hearts out. It was like, why couldn't you make this the Ooze? Right? Or like the Nightmare or something, a Hellion. Nobody's going to cry if it was a legendary Hellion, right? Like,
but the cute little otter.
But the one first ever otter in Magic the Gathering, 10 minutes after it's announced, by the way, God damn it.
Well, let's get into that. Let's talk about Lutri, because the big changes that have happened recently is Lutri specifically, Flash, which you mentioned, and then some changes to the rules to accommodate companions. So,
Yes.
yeah, Lutri, as you said, was spoiled. I'll just remind everyone what Lutri the Spellchaser is. It's 1 and 2 is it mana. So 1 is it for a 3/2 legendary elemental otter with companion, which is the companion criteria for Lutri is each non-land card in your starting deck has a different name.
God damn it. Why?
Lutri has flash, and when Lutri enters the battlefield, if you cast it, copy target instant or sorcery you control, and you may choose new targets for the copy. And as you say, right after Lutri was spoiled, there was this like, oh, also we've banned it already in Commander. Sorry.
Okay, so let me just shorten all that text for you. What this says is for 3 mana, you get a free 3/2 with flash. If you're playing red and blue, you get a free 3/2 with flash. That is what the card reads. Everything else is flavor text.
Yeah, because the companion criteria for Lutri is just
Play commander.
Have a commander deck. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean there's some non-flavor text in the bonus spell you get like that.
Oh yeah,
that's
by the way, you
relevant. Yeah.
Yeah, but like I agree with you, right? That it's like unless you're running some sort of weird, Grixis Shadowborn Apostle deck.
Yeah,
like this thing is going in every Izzet deck. Like there's no reason not to run it.
Every card, every 2, 3, 4, or 5 color deck is going to run this card. It's going to be a $50 card on release day because everybody's going to need it. Period. Like Josh Lee Kwai in the meeting was like, "Look, dude, it's wrong to not play Lutri in every deck you possibly can. Just even if you have not even one spell in your deck, just to have a free 3/2 with flash at will, 8th card, it's wrong not to play it, period."
Well, and as you were like saying though, right? Like I think the banning process behind it, and like one of the things you were saying, like in the article, I believe was like, we want to do this before this card hits $50 and everybody buys it, and then we go, oh, looks like it's actually pretty busted. Bye. And now, this is like a very proactive sort of approach to it.
Yeah. So do you mind if I walk you guys through how this worked?
Oh, please.
Yeah.
That's why you're here.
Okay,
Teach
so check
us.
this out. So check this out. Like we had the commander meeting, and it was, let's say, in March, and we get an email from Sheldon who sent us. We're all in this Discord together, and he said, "Okay, here's the date of the meeting. Here's the schedule we're going to be talking about. By the way, Wizard of the Coast has a card that they have brought to us that they would like to discuss coming out in Ikoria that they want to discuss banning day 0." And we're like, "I beg your pardon? Like you want Wizard to come to you with a card that they want you to 0-day ban? What?" And then they come to us and they show us this card. No, they give us the text of the card. The only person who had seen companions was Josh because of game nights. The rest of us had not seen any other companions or Ikoria cards at that point, right? So this is the first Ikoria card we've seen, and we're looking at this thing, and the first thing we see is companion, and we're like, okay, so companion just doesn't work in Commander, right? Like we don't have an outside of the game, we don't have a sideboard. This is all irrelevant, right? So okay, I get it, ban them all, that's fine. This is only the one, right? Like the one companion, we're good. And they're like, no, and assumed that taking all the companions out of Commander is not on the table. And I was like, what the hell do you mean? And oh God, we're going to die. Because check this out, right? So I guess before I get into the meeting, here's the reasoning behind why why Companion wasn't just outright banned. Ikoria is going to be a big set. Ikoria's got Godzilla, it's got all this flavor text, it's super fun to play. It's the spring set. Before COVID happened, it was going to be like the gangbuster set, right? Like, we know it. And Magic has grown exponentially large since every year. It just keeps growing. Millions of people were going to buy this. There are 10 cards in the set that have Companion on them. And people are going to crack their rares open, and they're going to see these awesome legendary creatures, and they're going to want to build commanders around them. They're going to want to have these cool deck restrictions and get creative and do things. And the worst thing you can do is say, yo, this deck that you have just doesn't work. Like, we don't want to do that. That's bad politically. That's a bad relationship to say your marquee mechanic from the new set is just irrelevant. It's bad for the players to be like, hey, guys, I brought my Umori the Collector deck. Oh, I can't. That's miserable. That sucks. We don't want to do that. But when you looked at Lutri And Lutri literally said, play commander and get a free dualcaster mage. And I was like, what? No, we can't. We can't do this because the 3 reasons we had were like I've basically enumerated. One is it's an autoplay. And yes, I understand listeners, there are people who are like, I wouldn't play that in my deck. You're not the person I'm talking about. I'm talking about literally everybody else. And
get them before I could feel them cracking their fingers, ready in the comment section. I was like, well, actually, Shivam, I wouldn't play it in this niche deck.
Then you wouldn't have been the one I'm worried about buying a $50 rare card, right? 2, they were like, okay, well, we don't want a 0-day ban because we don't want people to have the assumption that, oh, you can just ban. Because, every time spoiler season comes around, there's like, oh, man, you got to ban this in Commander like today. I'm like, no, we were like Bolus of Citadel. People were like that. It's like, no, we don't, dude. Just give it time. Let people actually play, see if it does anything, and then we'll talk about it. And we were like, what if we just ban this at M20? But then the thing is, that would be 3 months of people paying money for this card, buying it, building their decks around it, getting attached to this beautiful little otter. And it's like, is that what you want? Is that really like we want to set these people up to fail? Like telling them in advance, oh, this is going to be banned in 3-4 months. That's bad feelings. That's bad business. That's just bad. Right. And it's like, okay, look, we got to kill this day one. We don't want to do this. Can we just say Wizards did it? And they're like, no, we can't. That's not fair either. I'm like, what do you mean it's not fair? They came to us and said, we designed a card that is going to break your format. Please ban it. So of course we're going to ban it. Right. And it was almost 2 hours of going back and forth about whether we should do this or not. Cause this was not this is like one of the hardest bans ever. This is just like, this card is going to break Commander in half. The other one, if you're playing like Lurrus, which is breaking vintage right now, that's the one that says like, all your cards have to be CMC 2 or less. Okay, fine. Find me a CMC 2 or less commander that you can run that will also care about having an entire deck of CMC 2 or less. That sucks. That's not good. If you want to do that, knock yourself out, right? Like that's really, really hard to do.
But that's the difference though, right? Like you were saying, right. Is like that's a unique deck building restriction that somebody can try to make happen. And it
exactly.
incentivizes that creativity.
The other companions were also similarly, I mean, except for like Simic, which is just like silly, but like the Azorius
you have to cut
one,
your soul ring.
Yeah. Well, there's that. The Azorius one disqualifies itself just by breaking the deck building rules, right? It's like, have 20 cards more. I'm like, well, no, but okay. But Lutri was just like, play red and blue. And it was not, we couldn't do it. And I was adamant that we should ban all 10, but they were like, look, we can't. So just stop. And I'm like, okay, fine. Fair. Like, it was fair. It was like, we have reasons why we cannot ban all 10. We won't. And I'm like, okay, people are going to hate this. And lo and behold, it was like the most, since Paradox Engine, the worst days of Twitter I've ever had of just getting lit on fire. Because, hey, it's adorable otter that in seconds after people were already like, I stand this forever. I will protect him with my life. Lutri is, the new God King. And then like, oh, and we're banning this in Commander and probably banning it from Brawl. And it's like, the Commander Rules Committee is Satan who just sacrificed my children and drove over my puppy. And they're like, oh, and you're going to ban the otter, but you're not going to ban Flash? And I'm like, Jesus Christ, man. We had to announce a day and date with the reveal. We had to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because can you imagine having even a month of people getting attached to Lutri and then the deck set coming out and then the ban list the day after pre-release being like, okay, Lutri's banned. How would that have gone?
No, I mean, even I think it was like the biggest Band-Aid, like rip off of.
That's 100%.
Of Magic in like the past little while, right? It's just like, you know what? We know this is gonna suck. We're gonna do it. Like, I mean, I even like when the card was spoiled, I remember being in bed and like leaning over to my partner and being like, "Yo, look at this cute otter," and she was like, "Oh, we could build a commander out of that." And I was like, "Yeah, it'll be sweet." And then it was like going onto Twitter and having that and seeing that, and I was just like, all right, I don't like it, and I know at some point I'm going to have to be face-to-face with Shivam and Olivia and everyone. I'm going to have a civil conversation. But it was just like, but then the more I read the article about it and all that kind of jazz, it was honestly like the best decision I think that could have been made, because it's absolutely right for all the reasonings. And for me, as like this diehard, like
otters are my favorite animal.
Yeah, well, and MTG finance art like angers me to like a big extent. So
Sure.
Knowing now that that a bunch of people probably just were able to save a ton of money, I think, honestly, by not buying this otter, making this a cool thing, and then having it banned, I think was just it's looking at it from a community standpoint more than just like a rule standpoint.
It's like super important for me to say that we don't make decisions based on money very often, if ever. Like, except in cases where someone's like just jokingly say we should ban doubling season. I'm like, there's no way in hell you're banning an $80 card. Sit down. But like for instance, during the meeting, there were people who were like, look, man, there's a new set coming out and we're all in quarantine and people are going to go out and spend their hard-earned money that who knows where it's coming from or when. Do you really want to have kids going out there dropping $30, $40 on this must-have commander and then just ripping it away from them in a few months? Because we know it's going to be banned, period, at some point now or then. And we couldn't. I couldn't do that. I couldn't in good consciousness let this go out without just obliterating us. And it was just... It sucked, but ripping off the Band-Aid is exactly what it was. It's like, look, you've had this for 10 minutes. Feel all the pain you need to feel right now. Take that big chunk of hair with you, but it's not going to get better, and it's got to go away.
Yeah. It wasn't just the Band-Aid ripoff. It was the like, okay, ready? We're going to count down from 3. 3, 2, rip.
Oh. Yeah, it really like the nuclear option in a way, right? Like it's like a bunch all the CAG and everybody in like an office, and there's a big red button just like in the middle, and it's like, all right, everyone, hold hands, we're gonna go through this together.
That's kind of what it was.
Yeah,
it was like, oh no, we're gonna die. I mean,
I don't want to. I still, if we have more to say on Lutri, I would love to hear it. But I do want to ask, just because we're at that point of like the Band-Aid, like, oh god, this is gonna suck. Was there like a little bit of catharsis with the Flash ban, like just in the way that you might not have to hear about it anymore?
Okay, so here's the thing about you know what? That makes me real salty in ways that you're not going to expect. Like,
okay,
so
I apologize in advance.
No, so since the Commander Advisory Group was announced in December of 2018, or whenever we were at the PPR for Ravnica, I asked Twitter. I was like, "Hey guys, tell me what your problems and stuff are." And then these people who were like, yeah, we're CEDH players. I'm like, what's a CEDH player? I thought you guys are just the jerks who ruined my life. And it's like, no, we play, a more optimized version of EDH, and we want to do this and that. Like, we want to play really high level, like super strong, spiky Magic with Commander casually. And I'm like, oh, cool. What's your problem? Flash. I'm like, oh, okay. Hey guys, we should ban Flash. And it was like a year of hard work between like me and some of the other CAG members, and between like the outreach of the CEDH community itself, to all sit and build this bridge with the rules committee to help them understand that this is a part of our community. These guys play Magic they're just playing casual Magic, but at an optimized level to do things that's competitive is bad branding, etc. And when it came down to banning Flash, that last day, so the first 2 hours of that meeting were Lutri. The last 2 hours of that meeting were Flash. And that was after Theros meeting, which was like 4 hours of Flash. And that was after like Eldraine, which was another 2.5. Like, people are like, oh, you don't care about TEH. I'm like, I would love to care about anything but TDH.
So just for the I guess
oh
statistically,
yeah, I'm sorry, this is getting super inside baseball. I apologize.
No, it's fine. For the as you said, statistically, for people that don't actually play Commander, Flash, originally printed in Mirage, is an instant for 1 and a blue that says you can put a creature from your hand onto the battlefield. If you do, sacrifice it unless you pay its mana cost, reduced by up to 2 generic mana. So it's basically this card and any creature, you get to play the creature with Flash.
Well, no, not exactly.
Okay, so then that's
what's
exactly
the problem here. This card seems totally innocuous.
That's exactly my point. What's so bad about Flash?
Well, Graham, I'm glad you asked, because there's a card that was released in the Ravnica City of Guilds set called Protean Hulk. Or Protean Hulk, aka
it's from Deception.
the Hulk part of Flash Hulk, which is this big, ugly pig thing with like egg bubbles on his back, is a 7-mana 6/6 beast that says when Protean Hulk dies, search your library for any number of creatures with total converted mana cost of 6 or less and put them onto the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. What this means is that for Flash mana, which is 2 mana, 1 into blue, at instant speed, you can play a Protean Hulk, and then Protean Hulk dies. And when it dies, you tutor out up to 6 mana worth of anything, which is to say, Laboratory Maniac, Thassa's Oracle, anything that lets you mill your entire deck for free, like one of those cephalids that was out in Odyssey or whatever the heck it was. And basically, it's like building your own Doomsday. You basically get an instant win combo on turn 2.
I'm going to be playing the role of the buffoon here. So... okay, so you need Flash and you need Protean Hulk. That's 2 cards in a 100-card deck. Why is this such a problem?
Well, it turns out that Flash is remarkably easy to get when you play a 1-mana spell called Demonic Consultation, which is a tutor that says exile the top 6 cards of your library and then exile cards until you get the card you named. And then that card can just be Flash, and then you just get Flash and then play with your Mox, the one that makes you discard a land. What is that? Mox Diamond. And then you can play on turn 1 with Mox Diamond and Simian Spirit Hulk and whatever. And look, the ways that you could get Flash out and win on turn 1 or turn 2 are infinite and myriad in a format with as much tutoring and mana and weirdo tricks as Commander. And it was just to the point that, like, you can't counter it. You can't, like, because they'll have backup counters. They'll have other things to do. This thing will basically win in a million different ways that are all not fun. And like it was kind of like, this is a problem for you guys, it's fine, whatever. Then they printed Thassa's Oracle, which says mill your deck, win the game, right? And I was like, oh god, why'd you do this, Watsy?
That card sounds like a real problem. You should do something about it.
Yeah, well, oh boy. So as we were saying, something like 80 to 90% of Commander is played casually. And the Commander Rules Committee is one of the most conservative bodies of like rules judgment in Magic. And rightly so. They've made Commander into the biggest format there is, right? By very carefully picking and choosing their battles. And Flash is a problem for people who play at the very top 1% of the format. Like you're skimming the top of the most possible power you can get out of Commander. Most people are playing like Chair Tribal or doing things like, oh, you know, Lady's looking left, or here's my goblins, or like whatever it is. Like me, my soldiers deck, right? It's just super casual, super fun times. But the problem is the Flash community, the CEDH community is very organized and it's very dedicated. And there's the type of super spikes that want to be like, look, there's a best deck. I'm going to play the best deck. I'm not having fun playing the best deck. You guys need to do something about that. And I'm like, well, can't you guys just agree not to play Flash? It's bad. We just won't do it. And like, I can agree, but I can't make sure that the person I'm playing against will agree. So you need to do something about it. And I'm like, but we don't care about tournaments or like super high level. That's not what we're making the format for. We don't want a meta. You guys have a meta. You have decks that balance each other and fight each other. That's like tournament level. That's not what we're here to do. And like, yeah, but we play EDH and you're the EDH rules committee. This is a problem. And what it boiled down to is that, and my argument was like, look, CEDH players are still just Commander players. They're like us. They're looking for fun. They want to have a fun time. They want to play the most powerful decks they can. They're not looking to play against Chair Tribal. They're not looking to play, like, go to FNM and stomp a random scrub out of the game. They want to just play very high-level skilled Magic against other very high-level skilled Magic players. And their house is on fire. Like, we can discuss whether they're EDH or not after we put the fire out, right? Like... you know, and basically it was just because there's such a huge ingrained like mental block against we don't want to every month sit and ban cards out to make your tournaments work. We don't want to have the problems of the top level bleeding into impacting the casual tables, because at the casual level literally nobody is playing Flash. Maybe 0.1%. If you look at EDH Rec, which is the biggest repository of decks in Commander, there was like of the hundreds, like maybe 300,000 or 400,000 decks on there, Flash was in like 200. And that is not even a rounding error, right? Whereas in CEH, it's in like every deck.
Right. Just because there's no reason not to run it, really.
It's like, do you remember when Aetherworks Marvel was in Standard?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
I do.
Or
Yeah.
like, you know, when it's like, hey, what are you playing, Marvel? Oh, yeah, I guess you are. I guess everybody is. It's like, okay, well, look, you want to win? You play the deck that wins, or you play the deck that beats that one. Nothing beat Flash. And it was stifling the entire creativity. It was, people were stopping playing, people were dropping out of Magic. And I'm like, look, this may be a small community, but how long before those guys are like, well, I don't have a home to play CEDH anymore, so I'm just going to go to FNM and stomp that kid who's got his little, you know, Hedron grinder deck or whatever, and just ruin his day. I was like, we can stop this. We can stop this here.
We have the power.
But like, look, you know, the most controversial ban before this is Paradox Engine, right? Paradox Engine, I still get hate mail over because it's a card that like let people combo off by sneezing. And the thing about Engine, though, the reason it got banned was not that it was like, oh, it's a 5-mana dirtle, not do nothing artifact. No, dude, it got banned because it was ruining casual players' days. It left the highest levels and made it all the way down to everybody.
Yeah, that's interesting because I mean, I actually really like that you brought up Aetherworks Marvel, right? Because it was like one of those cards where I think even when I think it was Aaron Forsyth that wrote the article on it, but it was just like one of the big things about banning Aetherworks Marvel was not even necessarily that it was like the best deck or that like it was like, you know, destroying the format or anything. It was just that it represented just like not really like good, like not what they wanted to see out of Magic, right? Like, you know, it's you load up the energy, you spin the wheel, you get Ulamog, you win, right? And it was just like, sure that's good. It's interactable and you can stop that, but is that like Magic that we want to promote, right? So yeah, that's interesting with its kind of parallel to
or like Saheeli Cat. Saheeli Cat's the other one, right? Like when everybody in Standard is playing the infinite combo, and that's the only deck you're seeing, or like when everything with Ramanop Red or whatever, and the problem is, in Standard, that's fine. 3 months later, it'll change. Or they'll ban it or something. Commander, we don't change that often. And every deck is additive. Like, stuff doesn't go away. So Flash Hulk is only going to get better as more things get tutored. Like, Thassa's Oracle didn't exist 3 months ago, and Flash Hulk was still a problem. Right? Flash Hulk was a huge problem. And then Oracle came out and it became Fish Hulk, and suddenly it's over. Right? Like, it's just, this is...
Fish Hulk is a great name.
Yeah,
Fish Hulk sounds amazing.
It was just like, oh, this is just now unbeatable.
I mean, I'm vegan, but I'm getting hungry listening to that name.
And it was just like, look, dude, when Commander is the last format on the planet that should be homogenized. We should never have, like, the Commander deck. Right? Like, there are 50,000 commanders out there. Why would we have just the one? Everybody's playing Thrasios and Tymna, and they're only playing that because they can play Flash Hulk. That is wrong. That's breaking Commander in half. And it took a year of concerted effort and statistics and analysis and saying, like, look, man, we're like, I don't know. Did you ever see the movie The Animatrix?
I've seen it like 6 times.
Like,
okay,
which one of the Animatrix?
So in the Animatrix, one of the 2 shorts there is the history of the Matrix one, where like they talk about, like, there's that scene in there which always sticks in my head where the androids or the robots or whatever they are show up at the United Nations to try to, like, you know, plead their case. And they're like a cyborg in like a tie and a bowler hat, and this little lady in a nice looking formal dress, and they're like trying to explain it. And the people of the United Nations are like, "You guys are robots and less than us, and not our problem. Go away." And then the next time you see them, they've taken over the entire United Nations. They blow the whole place up, and it's Matrix now, right? And that's what I was just thinking. I'm like, these people are approaching us with peace. They want only to have fun. They don't want to ruin our day. This is a card that impacts literally no one but this community. And if we get rid of it, it will increase their value of life and their quality of life and gameplay by infinite amounts. And
Shivam, I'm so glad I know you. You're such a great guy. Thank you.
Well, I'm like, look, dude, I'm the most casual person on the planet. I hate stacks. I hate, like, CEDH is not my jam at all. I played it once. I'm like, this is incomprehensible to me and it's too hard. But I want you to have fun. That is all I care about. Is like, if you're not having fun and it's in my power to make sure you can have fun, I have failed. And I was like, I can't sit here and I can't put my name in this commander advisory group on these rules that we come out with if we're going to continue to ignore that this one community is begging us to help them and we have it in our power to help them and we're not doing it. And I got angry. I got so angry. And finally, it was like this last time they were like, okay, what if we tell the competitive EDH that we will give them a sub rules committee, they can go and make their own thing and we'll help them out. And I'm like, no. You can never evict them. That's not okay. Like, that's one of the things that a lot of normal commander players come to me and been like, they need their own ban list and they need their own rules committee. They need to leave us alone. And I'm like, you think there's going to be not the best players playing the top level decks when we make them go away? There's always a top level to the format. There's always going to be people who are like, yo, man, I'm going to play the best possible deck I can. What we want to do is make sure they're playing each other, not playing against, like, you know, little Timmy who comes to the store with their precon and gets raffle stomped out of existence by, you know, Winter Orb and Armageddon or whatever. It's like, no, that's not okay. And we can help them and they will be fine. And it's like, look, if we ban Flash and they still have problems, fine. Look, we gave them Flash. Now they can go figure it out. That's kind of what happened to tilt the scales this time is that even Josh Lee Kwai, who is the most adamant anti-ban person on the planet, was like, yo, look, one card. We have done 100 decisions and 100 bans ever in like Commander or whatever. Not one of them has been for the competitive player. I think we can give them one.
Do you worry that, like, because as you were saying though, right? Like, yeah, I'm genuinely curious, like, if this is like a floodgate sort of scenario, like the stone has been removed, so like what else is going to happen? But
Flash is pretty gross, to be fair.
Absolutely, I definitely agree with that, right? And it's just like I am curious, like what happens now, like when the next Boogeyman deck comes.
Can I be the outsider for 1 second before Shivam answers that? Is Time Vault already banned?
Yeah, I think so.
And Time Walk too, probably.
Time
right?
Walk is definitely.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, I mean, if you banned Flash and you've already banned Time Walk and Time Vault, I feel like the next Boogeyman argument is going to likely be a significant step down from the power of Flash. That's just my opinion from the Canadian Highlander point of view.
Both of those cards are banned, yes.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I kind of assumed. I was pretty sure.
Otherwise, you'd be seeing Time Vault all over the place, right? Like,
I figured, right? Yeah.
So both Lutri and Flash represented things that the Commander Rules Committee definitely did not want to do, because a 0-day ban, once you use it, that door is now open, right? And they don't want to do that. That's real bad for business. And by business, I mean just it's bad. Like, you saw what happened with Lutri. That's like a card that had to be banned. What about the next one? And people are going to be like, you banned Lutri, why not ban blah? But Flash,
you're going to be like as soon as a card gets spoiled, it'll be like, oh, time to go harass the rules committee to ban this card that just got spoiled.
Bad for business, the business of Shivam's poor sweet Twitter.
his beautiful timeline.
Oh, Jesus Mary. But so the thing about Flash though is, look, one of the biggest hangups was absolutely like there were members of the CAG and the rules committee who were like, look, dude, we're going to give them Flash. Then they're going to come back and say, now you need to ban consultation. Now you need to ban, you know, whatever, Gitrog monster. Now you need to ban Thrasios, et cetera, on into infinity. And we don't want to do that. And I'm like, look, that's fair. I appreciate that and I agree. However, Flash is literally like the card to do this with, right? Like, Flash is a special case. Flash is not only like ruining the format, Flash is the format. It's like when Tolarian Academy was banned, or when, like, you know, it's like this is every card. That's it. There is nothing else but Flash. Now, so to jump forward ahead, so we didn't announce Flash banning until the ban day, 420, and 3 days or 4 days before that, 4 days before that, Sheldon dropped by in like the Discord. It's like, by the way, we're banning Flash. That was it. That was the sentence.
Just steps in like a Leslie Nielsen kind of moment. Like, opens the door. By the way, we're banning Flash. Opens the door like, we're banning Flash. Thump. And I'm just like, we're counting on
you all. Good luck.
I looked at those like 5 words. By the way, we're banning Flash. Or 6 words there, and I just stared at them because that was like a year and a half of just my life in those 6 words of like desperately trying to get these people to move on this issue and to sell. Like, I don't know how I the casual guy, ended up adopting the CEDH community as my like force to defend or like my hill to die on, but it became that. And I just looked at that and I just like released this sigh. Like I was just like,
right. So I guess, yeah, to answer the question that I asked was, yeah, it was that feel of catharsis.
Oh my God, dude. But then like 10 minutes later, I get a message from like the CEDH cast like, hey, Shivam, we were wondering if you'd want to show up on our podcast, say like, you know, a Monday after the announcement, it would be fun. We could have you on there. I'm like, must not tell them. But, and so, yeah. And like, check it. So it was still funny though, because that weekend I put out a tweet. I was like, hey guys, what do you think the rules committee is going to do? And a lot of people are like, I know what they're not going to do. I know what they should do and won't do. I know what these cowards are. And I'm just like counting names and looking down and like 9 p.m. is rolling around. And it's like, hey guys, we banned Flash. Microphone drop, walk away. My Twitter for 2 days was jubilation. It was the exact opposite of Paradox Engine. It was like like at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast, people are like sending me like TikToks of them dancing and throwing cars away. People are singing songs. I mean, it was like the 4th of July meets Mardi Gras. It was just, these guys had wanted something so badly that was never going to come. Their community had been ignored for so long. And finally, I was able to bring them the thing. And I got emotional. I got choked up because I was like, I did it, guys. I did what you wanted. You're free. The fog is gone. You can have fun again. That's all I wanted. I was just like, I want you to have fun. That's all. And you're not having fun. And if you're not having fun, I'm not having fun. And I can't live with that. And especially now in this like just quarantine when we've had nothing joyful, this community just like, there were people who like 4 days before the ban were like, I'm quitting Magic forever and I've sold all my commander decks and, you know, Flash never can get banned. I hate everything. And then literally Monday are like, here are 13 new decks I've built. Now that Flash is gone.
The evil has been defeated.
It was like when you go to the end of like, you know, you go to the end of the game and suddenly you got the flashback of going to every village of all the people you've ever met and they're all celebrating and giving the main character flowers. And there's like, yay, now my kitty has come home. Yay, I can make flour again without the goblins. You know, all the things. And it's like, and it was just like people who like 3 days before were like calling me literally the most useless sack of crap on Twitter are like sitting there like,
they must have very boring timelines if they think you're the most useless sack of crap on Twitter.
Really? Yeah.
Or like I do, aggressive mute filters.
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you, this is what was posted. Shivam Bhatt of the CAG is in particular an aggressive, flippant, and expresses poorly thought out views on Twitter frequently. And I was like, you're killing me, man. Like, you're killing me here. I'm dying for you. It's like, buddy. But like, it was every single one of my PMs was just people who were like, I'd given up and you've given me hope again. I can have fun again. This is good again. It's like the air is clean. I mean, I've never seen that kind. I mean, I'm so used to getting pile-ons of just like, you know, BS hate, right? And like, to be fair, look, I know I signed up for the gig. I know what I'm doing. I've never seen this kind of just outpouring of extreme jubilation. Like there were 1 or 2 people who were like, man, you just ruined my deck. I had Flash and it was, you know, bringing Solemn Simulacrum in. Or I'm like, okay, look, man, you were the one casual guy who was going to get affected by this. And I am apologizing to you.
Aww.
But these people have been desperately begging for one and only one thing. And we were able to give it to them. And that makes all the difference. And I'm so grateful that I was able, I mean, I've been saying I a lot here. It's not just me. It was like a whole coalition of CEDH, like content creators and stuff, people on the rules committee, other people on the CAG were like really going out after this. But this is like definitely a flag that I had planted. Like, yo, I'm fighting for CEDH. I'm going to bring you a Flash ban. And I was able to do that. So like the people who are like on one breath cursing me for Iona and Paradox Engine are on the other breath thanking me for Flash. So you know what? I'll take it.
That sounds like
You're their Batman, you know. Like, they're just like they don't know whether to love you or hate you, but they respect you.
Hey, you know what, man? As long as they're playing, as long as they're having fun, I don't care. You can call me all you want as long as you're having a good time.
Well, I guess in the vein of having a good time, there was one other small rules change that we should at least just put a bow on before we let you go, which is that those other 9 companions that we talked about earlier.
Oh, right.
There's a rules change that now they work in Commander.
Okay. So yeah, let me give you that 10 seconds. And I promise you this will be
8
shorter.
of them. Sorry.
8 of them, yes.
No, it's okay, yeah.
Wait, what happened to...
Well,
must have missed something.
Yorion can't be a companion in Commander because you need to play 120 cards or 119,
and that's not allowed.
And you're not allowed. You have to play exactly 99 Commander.
Oh.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, go on. I'm being nitpicky. Sorry.
No, that's fair because I would have said the same thing and somebody else should talk.
Well, good.
This is great.
Because
This is the easiest podcast episode I've ever had to be on.
Yeah, I'm sorry, dude. Like CEDH Cast had me on and it was 2 hours of a victory lap, so I don't know what to tell you. But
I love this.
So basically, here's the thing. Everybody's like, how does Companion work? There's no outside of the game in Magic. In EDH, there's no sideboard. You're not making a wish board. We don't like wishes. And people are like, why won't you make wishes legal? You can make companions and blah, blah, blah. Okay, here's the thing. Wishes are open-ended tutors that can get any card effectively from outside the game or your sideboard or whatever. That can sculpt it. It breaks kind of the idea of like your answers are in your 99 or they're not, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's kind of one of the pillars of Commander. And a lot of people give me hate about this. Whatever. That's not bring up with the rules committee, man. That's not something I control.
And so as it stands, the wishes themselves are not necessarily banned. There's just no outside the game in Commander.
If you want them in your deck, knock yourself out. They're just not going to do anything, right? Same with like Karn, the Great Creator, right? Like it can't get your Mycosynth Lattice out of the graveyard. I mean, out of your sideboard because there's no sideboard, or out of the game because there's no out of the game. But it can get cards from exile or whatever. Fine. But what we did was, and I was like, I was really unsure about this, but Toby Elliott, the rules guy, explained it. Effectively, we changed Rule 11 of Commander to say, abilities which bring cards you own outside the game do not function in Commander, to replace it to be, abilities which bring other cards you own outside of the game into the game don't function. And that other means that, look, all of the companion cards literally say, if your deck fits in these requirements, you can bring this one card in. And I'm like, but it's 101st card, and I really don't like that. But all of the other ones have this super weirdo requirement. And they're like they're building kind of like restrictions that force you into creative ways of doing things. And that's one of the things that the Commander Rules Committee really appreciated was like, yo, like, if you have to contort your deck in such a twicky, like all odd cards or all even cards or whatever to play this, hey, you know what? You had to do a lot of hoops to get your 100-card pile to play this kind of mediocre, like random, like extra creature.
These definitely seem like their requirement is build the kind of deck that Graham would want to play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the green-blue one is really strong, right? Like, draw cards. That's awesome. But, like, companions aren't commanders. You get them once. They go to the graveyard or they get exiled, and that's it, right? And it was kind of like, look, man, Zerta the Dawnwalker, the Boros one, yeah, it can go infinite with, like, Basalt Monolith or Grim Monolith or something because it makes activations cheaper. But Boros desperately needs help. Let them have Firefox. It's okay. And by the way, if Zerta the Dawnwalker is not called Firefox in your nickname show, I'm going to have words.
I mean, you mean, look at it. I don't know what else we would call it.
It has to be.
Yeah.
Like, it literally is, yeah. But like, all the other ones are things like, they're just so random and like, you built your deck around it, fine, you can have it. It's only going to bring itself into play, and it's not going to go back to a command zone, whatever. And I was like, you know what? Fine. I will just concede this point. You guys gave me Flash. I'm going to let it go. Right? Like,
You're talking to your, like, the inner monologue, like, Shivam, you won a victory today. Let's just back it up here.
that's basically, it's just kind of like, you know what, man? Let him have it.
Yeah.
I'm super curious. Like, shout out to Toby for coming up with this like elegant solution to allow it. But I guess it sounds like you're on the other side of like deciding to do it, right? Like there's a way to do it so that you can have companions in Commander that they work, but like I'm just confused for why we needed companions when these creatures are also already legendary. Like if we didn't do this rule, then we would have the otter as your commander, right?
Right. That's one of my arguments is I'm like, if we just say, yo, companion text doesn't work in Commander, suddenly you have all 10 of these to just be your commanders. And that's great. That's cool.
And by the way, I think Yorion still can just be your commander if you want to build a Yorion commander deck, right? If it's just
Yorion cannot be your companion, Yorion can be your commander.
Yeah,
right.
And frankly, if you put it into your like, you know, Brago deck, it's perfectly cool with its little bouncy extra things. It's a cool card. I mean, it's fine. I wish we could have done that, but it was that was above my head.
I would imagine though that's as you were saying though, kind of where like the WotC influence kind of comes in, where you're just like, y'all, we can't ban this new flagship sort of mechanic from the new exciting set. Like that's bad PR in multiple ways too.
Well, and the thing is, like Sheldon and
Canadian Highlander did it. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Canadian Highlander was basically like, yo, whatever. But Canadian Highlander also doesn't put out like there's not a year of Canadian Highlander, much to viewers' dismay.
Yeah, not yet. It's on its way though. It's coming up.
Well, have we heard what next year is? Can next year be the year of Canadian Highlander? I'm ready.
No, let's bring in. Let's bring that year back.
I miss that year. Those are good times. But yeah, no, like. You know what? Because I'm one of those old school conservative types who I'm like, I believe in the value and sacrosanct of the 100 cards. But look, if you contort your deck to get like one of these to be your companion, fine. I'm looking forward to see what you come up with. It's cool. Whatever. Like, Lutri, I wish they could have thought... I mean, if they could have just said something like, hey, all your cards have to be instants or creatures with flash, you know, that would have been rad. That would have been a companion that we could have just dealt with. And I was like, come on, you couldn't have thought of anything else? Literally anything? But Singleton of all things. And
it makes for a pretty fun standard card. Like, I will say that. Playing a bunch of standard lately, it's like, oh, maybe Lutri. Maybe I can make it work.
You know, I think companions are super fun and limited, and I don't think they are super good in other formats, especially Lurrus, which might be the second card ever banned in Vintage.
Lurrus I'm having a big problem with. I mean, that deck was already like pretty bonkers to begin with.
It turns out being able to get that Black Lotus back from the graveyard every turn is pretty good.
Yeah, Lurrus is wild. Companion is just super powerful.
I don't understand. It's ridiculously powerful.
Is Lurrus actually banned, or is we just assuming it's going to be banned?
It's taken over Vintage. Apparently.
You can't restrict a companion. What's that going to do? Okay, I'll have one. Like, good enough.
Yeah, right? I mean, even just like on the low end of things, like if you wanted to be able to just like Lotus, grab Lurrus, grab your Lotus back, and then keep going. Like that's
Lion's
small.
Eye Diamond Lurrus.
Yeah. Like all these sort of wild things. He's
barf.
Pretty strong.
Turns out you may cast one permanent with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard. Pretty good when those things are all 0 casting costs.
My beef is so on the other end of it, where I'm just like I've had a major hate on for Jeskai Fires like for so long, or Fires decks in general, and then like Karuga comes along and it's just like everyone's like, you know, we're building these new cool decks, and the Fires players go, oh, we weren't playing anything under 3 CMC anyways.
Exactly.
So sure, now we'll just add Karuga to our list, right?
Because you know what Simic needed? Card draw.
Anyways, that's a different pod. That's another thing. I realize we're at an hour already.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've been talking a whole lot. I apologize. By the way, Ben, it was super fun to watch you playing that cycling deck when me and Olivia were getting to commentate on the CFP Magic Fest.
Yeah, that deck is sweet. I actually had somebody tweet me today where they were like, hey, I haven't been playing all that much Magic lately. But I saw your cycling deck and wanted to give it a go. I was in bronze, and now I'm here. And they post a screenshot, and they're in diamond, and I was like, "Oh, all right, this thing works, sweet." So yeah, it's, and that's the thing, right? It's like I mean, we talked about it, and I don't want to go on too long about it, but just like in the way that you were saying, right? Like innovation, and how companions can help kind of do that, right? Like do these new sort of fun deck restrictions, right? Like, I'm looking forward to running into somebody who's like, this is my all even card deck, or this is my all odd card deck, right? Like all the CMCs. And I think that's really, really neat, right? So
exactly.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I agree. I think that maybe like just a sweeping companion ban may have just been like the most elegant solution. But
what are you gonna do? I mean, we'll figure it out, right?
Yeah, I do really. I'm looking forward to seeing what people can bring with these cards.
What did you think when you heard about a flash ban?
I was like, this doesn't affect me, and I put my cell phone down. But I genuinely was like, my first thought was like, oh my god, that's got to be such a load off of Shivam, and everyone's like I was just like, after all the crap that you guys get, and like, because that's the thing, right? Magic Twitter scares me. Like, it's a scary place, and people have very loud opinions on it. And I think, like, especially when it comes to Commander, those bans are those opinions get even louder. So I know that Flash has just sort of been that one that's been on like the periphery for so long, and I just was instantly just like, oh man, that's gotta feel so good. Especially after everything that's been going on.
Yeah I was like, the day after it, I was like, you know what, I'm looking forward to just not talking about Flash ever again.
Well, thanks for talking about Flash with us one last time.
Good segue, Graham. Yeah.
Now you never have to talk about it again.
Shivam, it's a real pleasure to have you on the show.
I'm free.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you guys
to talk about that. But yeah, that will do it for this week. A reminder that, of course, the show is brought to you by Card Kingdom. Do check out cardkingdom.com/LRR. And, of course, it is brought to you by you, points at screen, at our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Shivam, where can people find you?
Literally anywhere. No, you can find me on Twitter at Girapuri Gears, which is a lot like Girapuri Gearcrafter, but with an I in the middle. And you can find my podcast, Casual Magic, basically anywhere podcasts are sold. And actually, in a couple of weeks, you'll even hear one of your familiar friends, Graham, on my show.
Oh, yeah.
Which should be delightful.
We recorded that.
Yeah, because, in quarantine times, nothing has any context anymore. Every day is the same.
I don't know when we recorded that. Was it 3 months ago? Was it yesterday? Nobody knows.
Maybe both.
Yeah. Wasn't it like 3 days ago?
I think so.
I don't even know.
Really? Was it that recent? I truly do not remember. All right.
Anyways, yeah, so it's super fun, and we just talk about things that I feel like talking about, which is basically the best reason to have a podcast.
Awesome. Well, as well as Shivam, that has been Ben.
Yo.
And Nelson.
Thanks for listening.
And I've been Graham, and thank you all, and we will talk to you next time on Tap Tap Concede.